love your calls on whether under-18s should be prevented from joining pop bands. 020 7862 2222. Give us a call and tell us what you think. So Robbie Williams' songwriter has urged the music industry to stop working with under-18s after the death of the former One Direction star Liam Payne. Guy Chambers said that joining Take That at such a young age had a lifelong impact on Robbie's mental health. Robbie shared his own tribute to Liam Payne, who died last week in Argentina. He said Liam's trials and tribulations were very similar to mine, so it made sense to reach out and offer what I could, so I did. I still had my demons at 31. Even famous strangers need your compassion. So should record labels be made to wait until young, talented musicians are 18 before they offer them contracts? What do you think, Michael?
I'm quite sympathetic to this idea. I mean, the rate at which young stars do have troubled futures, I think, is very high. You've got lots of young stars who end up dying before their time, like Liam Payne. You've also got people who have pretty horrible lives, like Michael Jackson. Often they get into those situations through a relationship of exploitation. Otherwise, it might be the case that everyone's been very well-meaning, no one's done anything wrong, but the fact of getting famous super young is going to do something quite strange to your sense of self, isn't it? The idea of banning it, I think, is slightly more difficult. I was speaking to someone about this yesterday and they said, what about child actors? Are we going to have films where either you don't have kids in them or you have adults playing children? That would be creepy. So there's issues.
Well, Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone, the wheels came off him.
Yeah, well, he got too famous as well. I think the idea of holding a child up as a celebrity is a bit morally suspect.
There's child actors and child stars, and I think if you're going to be superstar in a particular film that's going to change your life, that needs thinking about. What do you think about this?
Well, no, I don't think you can ban any human being from developing their talent at whatever age. You mentioned Michael Jackson. There wouldn't have been Michael Jackson or Jackson 5 if he hadn't started so young. Because,
and it was his dad, of course, as well.
Well, yeah, his dad was pretty cruel to them, but Michael Jackson got so skewed in the head because of the very strange life he led. So what I think should be the norm is that the industries, the pop industry, must marshal it much more closely. For instance, Taylor Swift is on a world tour now, a billionaire. She travels with her mother. And we know that because her mother got involved in the row about the blue light escort to Wembley, OK? Now, it seems to me she's a very well-balanced young lady.
She is.
She's got a mother alongside her. And you need more of those people, either advisors or family to travel with them.
It's difficult. I mean, yeah. I hear what you say, and I think the Swift family have been amazing with Taylor's career from the start. And her mum used to drive her around to put CDs into record shops. But she wasn't that young when she broke through. She was maybe 18, 19.
Yeah. But
and I don't know whether it's different when, imagine if you're Liam Payne and you're saying, I want my mum to come on tour.
No.
It's not going to work.
It doesn't have to, it has to be a minder. Footballers sometimes have minders rather than members of family. Stevie Wonder, little Stevie Wonder, he broke through at the age of 14. You don't want to deny the world that sort of talent.
Well, yeah, I mean, as I say, I'm not sure about banning it, but the idea of their parents are there so it's fine, I don't think history attests to that either, because there's so many examples of people who got famous young where they had a very exploitative relationship with their parents. So Britney Spears,
Amy Winehouse, that category.
Michael Jackson's apparent victims were often on tour with him because the parents used the child to accompany the Jackson tour.
But also Michael Jackson missed his childhood and wanted to have the company of children. Because he was a star when he was about 7.
I know.
I mean, I think it also depends on the individual. So, for instance, George Harrison was one of the most famous men in the world at the age of 20, but never really went off the rails.
No.
Do you see what I mean?
20 is very different to 14, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry?
20 is... No one's saying you shouldn't be able to get famous at 20. They're
14,
saying that 14
We've got a call. Christine is in Devon. We're all very sad about Liam Payne, Christine, aren't we?
So we certainly are.
Yeah. What do you think? Is there a lesson here?
Yeah, there is. I think that we'd lose a lot of young talent, and I think the families get swallowed up with all the glitz and glamour and the money. And the money should be put into a trust fund until they're at least 25, 30, to be able to settle down into the life of glamour and to set them, because the money is the root of the evil. That's the route into all the drugs and everything.
Yeah. I mean, hearing Liam say that to keep the band secure, they had to lock them in their hotel rooms. And as far as he's concerned, there's only one thing in the hotel room of interest, and that's the minibar.
Yeah.
And so I had a party for one every night.
Yeah.
That is quite sad.
Well, it
isn't
is,
it?
and
As a
that's
young boy, really.
That's why he needs mentoring, and there needs to be a different structure to look after these people.
Christine, the problem is, Christine, I suppose you'd end up losing. You wouldn't hear from certain people until they were older, basically. But maybe that's worth it.
No, I think we lose too much talent. There's
Okay.
a lot of young talent and lots around.
Yeah.
And I think we need that talent, but we need to safeguard them with their money, because that's the problem, is the money they earn.
Do you
and the
remember?
hangers-on.
You might remember, Christine, back in the 80s, there was a very young band called Musical Youth. And their song was
Yes, I
called
do.
Pass the Duchy from the Left-Hand Side.
One-hit wonders.
One-hit wonders. And at the time, someone rather boringly said, I think these lads should still be in school. I think the idea they're going around studios in term time isn't good. And everyone said, oh, you are a crashing bore. Of course they've got to. Actually, now that looks quite sensible.
Yeah, well,
because they were, so it was. They're not going to be able to pay for the rest of their lives with that.
Other people have had to put up with extreme pain. Wayne Rooney was playing football with adult men when he was 15, and one of the most famous footballers in the world by the time he was 17. So, that was a different form of fame, but it might be the football is even more crushingly invasive on your life than being a pop star.
I think with football, you probably can't abuse drugs and alcohol so easily as you might if you're really bored on a pop star trail. Thank you, Christy.
It's having the focus on you. This is what Liam Payne said. One woman asked him in the hotel in Argentina, are you all right? He said, no, I was in a boy band. That's why I'm so troubled. It was the spotlight, the focal spotlight of the world.
Well, they say that when you become famous, your age freezes. So if you become famous at 17, even when you turn 50, you're still 17.
Macaulay Culkin is a perfect
example.
example.
Exactly.
I actually think Taylor Swift is a bit of an example of that.
Well, I think
all her songs are very immature. They're all sort of like, this guy broke up with me and I'm really angry at him. You don't feel like... I don't listen to them and think this is a really healthy individual.
She's born in 1989, so she's now 11, 12,
my age.
35. Yeah, you're right. But that's, but she's certainly well balanced. But I mentioned the other day that before she was mega, I went and did watched her Red tour, and I met her with my kids, who were blown away. And then her parents were both there, and we met them, and it was a bit like a family thing. And I remember thinking, okay, this is going to really help her if this goes really, really big.
Yeah.
And I think it has. Yeah. I think she's done really well.
The football example, I think, is important, though, because the management have a real vested interest in them not going off the rails, because they need them to turn up fit every morning. Whereas I think it's the case that with the record labels, they don't necessarily mind if they turn up at clubs and sort of present an image of being bad boys, because that's quite good for promo.
Quickly.
We have ignored the individual because the other members of One Direction have all done rather well without falling prey to the same temptations.
But a lot of it is in the build of the mind which you're born with. After the